So let's have some fun and talk about predictions in the future as we move towards net zero. The global health challenges that we've experienced, coupled with a growing energy crisis in a world of increased geopolitical instability, all of those factors have significantly impacted nearly every aspect of business operations across all industries. We're all seeing that. As you think about the ways that companies have had to adapt and become far more agile in environments like this, especially as they seek to future-proof their business to the extent that future-proofing is even possible, what do you envision the next 2 or maybe even 5 years looking like for sustainability and achievement towards net zero in business? And Nicola, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to what we've been saying, where recognizing this trend that's happening, it's real, it's coming fast, it's expanded now across, like we said, investors, customers, employees, for example, and that it's no longer sort of a nice to have. This is core business now, and to recognize those business opportunities. What you do is you have to go back and look at your business and what are your competitors doing? How can we transform our business model to make it more resilient, more flexible, more agile? I think the digital transformation of businesses lends itself to that. We were able to pivot very quickly with COVID to get people being able to work remotely and all these collaboration tools. So I think if you look at your business and look at the car market, right? It's being very disrupted with electric vehicle transformation. And I think for those automakers that didn't think it was going to happen, they're scrambling now. So you don't want to be, you would rather be the disruptor in your own business than be the disrupted. So how can you, I think with climate change, we're going to have a lot of supply chain issues. And how can you maybe make your supply chain more robust? There's great examples of where we're so reliant on electronic manufacturing in Asia, right? And that's really hurt us with respect to the availability of microchips. And that's really disrupted the car business. So diversifying your supply chain and looking ahead of where, what's going to be disrupted because of increased storms and fires coming with the consequences of climate change, disruptions in geopolitical disruptions. So I think it's really looking at your business from the resiliency of your supply chain and how can you provide backups or even change your inputs, like change how you're manufacturing your products or what components you need. I think Rich was talking about even, hey, let's make our products so that we can reuse the components, we can recycle the components, we can make them with different materials. So I think those are all basic strategies that you can follow.
Yeah, no, definitely. Supply chain is something looking forward. The impacts are going to be huge. Laurence, some of your thoughts?
Well, I think it goes back to, I think we're going to see 2 modes, right, with respect to sustainability. I think that there are initiatives that are, require global cooperation, right? I mean, when we talk about really impacting climate change and biodiversity protection, all those things require policy, and those are much more long-term, and they just require time. So I think we will continue to see businesses engage at that level, right? Because that's what it's going to take, right? It is going to take some significant policy change if we're really going to think about it globally. But then I think there is that localization, right? And what can individual businesses do to be more resilient, right? I mean, case in point, everything that's happened in the last couple of years and even just in the last month, right, has tested the supply chain and how quickly you can shift. And that diversification of your operations and your workforce, I think, is at the end of the day core, right, to a sustainable business that can rotate and adjust with agility. We have a client that had established a goal of closing the loop, right? They wanted to be 100% primary package, returnable or recyclable. right, by 2025. So when you think about that, it gets back to, how do businesses really think about that diversification of suppliers, big, small? How do they engage with, startups, investors, innovators, right? So that they can actually achieve, what for this company was, 100% primary packaging that's recyclable and returnable. And they've achieved it, but it's taken a village.
Yeah.
It's not just them. It's taken a village, and really being able to build that resiliency as an ecosystem rather than within the four walls. So I absolutely echo Nicola's point that it's about collaboration, right? Both locally and at the global level.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, there's lots of consortiums now that are helping companies, bring companies together to work on the problem across a supply chain or within an industry, because I think no one company can solve some of these challenges themselves. And so I would seek out, those consortiums. There's the Clean Energy Buyers Alliance that is formed to help companies procure renewable energy, learn how to do it and procure renewable energy, make it easier to procure renewable energy. There's the Green Grid, which is around data center efficiency. There's many other consortiums. There's a Green Software Foundation that was recently formed last year around how do we design, code, and test software in a way that makes them very resource efficient, which I think has great business value. So I would seek out the those consortiums in your industry and areas that are specific to your supply chain that can help you move along together instead of trying to solve the problem yourself.
Well, and then I think to your point, right, not just within the boundaries of your industry, but really like leveraging the industry convergence that I think we're seeing, and that sustainability is actually driving, right? Where, in utilities, right, it's actually now about, automotive and, energy and utilities. We look at products, right? They're looking at waste collectors, and like the ecosystem and the industry convergence and the new opportunities that arise are tremendous, right? But you got to look outside, right? And really leverage these collaborative forms.
I think the good news is that there is a sort of a unified effort to do all these things, right? So we're no longer trying to go it alone, so to speak. I think there is a real momentum here. Doesn't mean to say that the challenges won't be difficult, and the rate of change that we need, the rate of innovation won't be challenging. But there's that sort of collective desire to make these changes, whether it's around renewable energy or some of these changes. The supply chain issue is fascinating to me because in a way, you think, oh, well, because of the strain we're seeing around global supply chains and, sort of this idea that maybe near sourcing is the answer. That intuitively has benefits, right? It's like going to the farmer's market instead of getting something from really far away. But, as always, it's more complex than that, right? It really is a big systems problem, and doing something nearby may make you lose a lot of efficiencies that you would have had if you did it somewhere else, or you did it in aggregate somewhere else. But I think, I think there's going to be this ongoing fine tuning. And again, this is where technology, planning, optimization has to be part of the process, right? Because no one's doing this in the back of an envelope anymore. But I often sort of, look at some of the trends where, let's say next day shipping, right? So people say, well, that's terrible for the environment and trucks. Well, guess what? That's an expectation that's being set by customers, and or for customers expect that, and the suppliers have sort of met that expectation. And the answer is not to stop, right? The answer is not to say, well, we're going to go back to it's going to take a week now. Sorry. No, the answer is to do it better. And again, that takes innovation and investing in electric vehicles, and assuming those vehicles are sourced with renewable energy. Doesn't make as much of a difference anymore that there's going to be more trucks in the road. But then also thinking about, as we're going into Amsterdam or London, how can we schedule these deliveries to be happening at days that aren't or as times that aren't as disruptive? So again, the answer is not to stop. The answer is to really think about doing things better, and being more sustainable is part of that definition of better.
Excellent. Hey, thanks for that. That's some great things to think about as we look forward, in this issue. Would you like to see bonus content from this discussion? Check out the episode blog article at oracle.com/trending topics.